Hey there, I'm Dave Hearn, and I'm the director of Kissimmee Park Observatory. In this Star Hopping Extra, we're going to continue on our Basic Astrophotography series and show you how to capture motion in the night sky through the interesting and fun process of time-lapse photography. More about this great stuff right after this. Stay tuned. Hey, hello, hi, and welcome to episode 48 of Star Hopping with Kissimmee Park Observatory. I'm Dave Hearn, and I'm very happy to be your host. In this series of programs, we'll show you the most beautiful sights in the night sky and explain exactly how to find them with your binoculars or your telescope. Well, in this episode, I'm finally covering a topic that I've had in the back of my mind for a while, thinking that it would be a great episode of Star Hopping. I'm going to show you the basics required to create time-lapse movies of the night sky. I'm sure you've seen these before, movies showing the motion of the stars across the sky, or the sun or the moon setting, or other fascinating movies that compress a very large amount of time into 30 seconds or less. The equipment to perform this type of capture is very simple. All you really need at a minimum is a camera, a lens, a tripod, and one other critical item to control the timing of the repeating exposure. I'll get into the details of the equipment setup shortly. So let's talk about a basic star field motion capture. The stars rise in the east and set in the west due to the opposite motion of the Earth as it turns. The rate of this motion is 15 degrees per hour, 15 arc minutes per minute, and 15 arc seconds per second. This is unperceivably slow to the naked eye. Sure, in a telescope with medium magnification, you actually can see the stars and moon drifting across the eyepiece, but certainly not with the naked eye. So to make this perceivable, we need to compress time. And how do we do that, you ask? I'll show you how right after this break. Kissimmee Park Observatory would like to thank our wonderful supporters on Patreon. Your contributions will allow us to create and provide more quality astronomy content. We appreciate your generosity and support. The process of starscape time-lapse is pretty simple. In order to make the star motion apparent, we use our camera to take a single image, then wait for a preset time, then take another image. This goes on for a long time, say 1 or 2 hours, although you can go much longer if you can. After this series of images are complete, they can be sequentially combined into a movie. Since we waited between frames, the motion of the star or motion of the planet or whatever you're capturing can be seen from one frame to the next. The result of this is a movie that shows smooth motion. I took this short movie over the KPO dome that shows the stars of the Winter Milky Way slowly sliding toward the west. Interestingly enough, if you happen to have any clouds come through during your capture period, you'll also see them zipping by through the frame in the time lapse. For time lapses, it always gives some additional interest to see some clouds. Not so great for regular observing sessions, but good for time lapses. Anything else moving in the sky, such as airplanes, are also captures as streaks in the subframes, which always adds further interest. I always like to set some type of foreground object in the frame, like a tree, a mountain, or anything else. This provides an interesting frame of reference and makes the motion of the time lapse more apparent. So the timing of these delays and the automation of the capture of a series of images can be accomplished in several ways. The basic piece of equipment to control this is called an intervalometer. This piece of equipment plugs into a control port on your DSLR camera and automatically fires the shutter at a predetermined time. It allows you to select the number of exposures you want and the delay between the exposures. This can also be done with a computer and software or with cameras that have intervalometers built in, like the popular GoPro series. My friend and great supporter of KPO, Dan Zizek, has created some beautiful time lapses with his GoPro at several of our observing sessions. So that's the equipment. But before you get started, you need to determine the correct exposure to allow you to capture a nice star field. This can be accomplished by playing with the ISO sensitivity settings of your camera, combined with varying the exposure time. I get great results at ISO 1600 and about a 30-second exposure. If you're in a dark sky location though, you can really push up the ISO to get more and more stars. But once you start to see sky fog showing up on the image, you've pushed it too far. So try to get a reasonably dark sky, well-exposed foreground features, and lots of stars. One comment about the exposure length though. You can't go too long because you'll start to see star trails, which will make the resulting movie look kind of fuzzy because the stars aren't pinpoint. 30 seconds with a short focal length eyepiece, 50mm or less, works out just about right. One other thing to keep in mind is that the interval time between the exposures must be longer than the exposure itself. So if you're doing 30-second exposures, you'll need to set an interval time of at least 35 seconds to allow the shutter to close and then open again. So once you have all the settings right, then you can start the intervalometer, listen to that first click of the shutter opening, and then just wait for a couple hours. If the night is dewy and wet though, you need to remember to use a lens hood, or your later shots are going to end up being fogged because of all the dew. So, after you collect all your images, you'll need to assemble them into a movie. We'll show you how to do that right after this break. Would you like to see the scripts, images, and star charts that I present in each episode of Star Hopping in written form? Well, you can. They're available in our Field Notes digital guides that we produce for each and every episode of Star Hopping. Field Notes guides are available right back to episode 1 of Star Hopping, and you can put them on your phone or tablet to take with you out to your favorite observing site. Our Field Notes are available in our digital store individually in seasonal bundles or by subscription, where you can receive these useful digital guides in your inbox sent to you the same day as when we publish each new episode of Star Hopping. Check out our selection of field notes in our digital store by visiting kpobservatory.org/storefront. So before you assemble your movie, there's a little bit of calculation to perform. The length of the final movie depends on two things: the number of frames you've captured and the frame rate. In order to get a smooth motion in a movie, it needs to run no slower than 15 frames per second. 30 frames per second is really normal for totally smooth motion. So let's say you took a time lapse that lasted 2 hours and you took images every 30 seconds in order to get a good star field. The total number of frames can be calculated as follows: 120 minutes in 2 hours times 2 frames per minute for a total of 240 frames. Now, if you pick a frame rate of 30 frames per second, the total duration of the movie will be 240 divided by 30, or only 8 seconds long. Not much to show for your 2-hour effort. But if you use a 15 frame per second rate, it'll last twice as long, 16 seconds. So how do we assemble the subframes into a movie? On the Mac, I use a piece of software called Time Lapse Assembler. A very simple app that lets you select the values that I'd mentioned previously, pick your folder holding your images, and then with one click it'll generate the movie. There's tons of other applications out there for Mac and Windows. Just Google assembling a time-lapse movie and you'll find a bunch of options. Recently, new devices have come out to allow the camera to pan throughout the series of images. You've seen that panning motion in some of the movies that I've shared so far. Basically, what happens here is that the camera is mounted on a device that not only has an intervalometer inside it, but it also has a little motor that moves the camera a tiny amount in the clockwise or counterclockwise direction between each frame. This results in a smooth pan during the resulting movie. The product that I use for panning time lapses is called Radian by Alpine Labs. This little cylindrical device mounts on the tripod on the bottom and connects to the camera on its top surface. I use an adjustable ball mount above to allow proper positioning, which is really a crucial accessory for this device. The Radian is programmed by an app on your phone or iPad in which you select the number of frames, direction of pan rotation, and the amount of panning in degrees. Then you specify the number of frames, delay time between frames, and then click to program the device. The iPad then starts a countdown for you to watch while the time lapse is actually proceeding. There are many creative applications for this device, and it can be used for horizontal and vertical panning. I love this unit, and I highly recommend it to you. The Radian sells for $279, so it's a little pricey, but you can find lots of videos on it out on YouTube. So we've been speaking of time lapses accomplished with a camera and a tripod, but there are other kinds of motion that can be seen in the sky over time using a telescope. A great first example is a lunar eclipse. This is a time lapse I took of the blood moon eclipse back in April of 2014. If you take an image of the moon every minute during an eclipse, you can see the progress of the Earth's shadow as it moves across the moon. The challenge here is that you have to vary your exposure time to appropriately expose the moon as the shadow changes. You can see the exposure time change several times during this movie. Another great possibility for time-lapse is the motion of a comet against the stars. Some comets, if they pass close to Earth, exhibit significant motion against the stars during a very short period of time. Here's a movie of Comet Lovejoy taken in January 2015 with the KPO reflector. Now this certainly is not smooth motion, but it nicely shows the comet and its fantail moving against the stars. Wow, I know that was a lot of information for one episode. These star hopping extras always seem to end up that way. We started off learning the basic definition of what a time-lapse movie is and how it actually shows motion over a long period of time compressed into a short movie. Then we talked about how to set up a basic tripod camera and lens star lapse and how to use the intervalometer to control the capture of your image series. After that, we talked about the basic calculations of how to determine the length of your final movie by balancing the number of frames captured with the frame rate. Then we pressed on and learned what software to use to assemble the time-lapse movie. Then we proceeded on to discuss using panning devices such as the Alpine Labs Radian, and then the other types of time-lapse movies you can make captured through your telescope, such as lunar eclipses and cometary motion. All in all, a really fun, fascinating, and enjoyable process to capture the motion of the stars. So that does it for this week's episode. You can find our show notes on our website at kpobservatory.org/sh048, where you can comment and leave any questions that you may have. We're getting really close to our milestone episode number 50, when some interesting and positive changes will be coming. Stay tuned to Star Hopping for that. Well, thank you very much for joining me here, and I'll see you in 2 weeks with more star hopping tips and tricks.
I'm Cassie, and I hope you've enjoyed star hopping around the Milky Way. We'll continue to bring you these video astronomy tutorials and the associated podcast every other week on Thursdays. They'll be designed to help you find deep sky objects that are up in the sky at the time we post them on the internet. The reason we create these videos and podcasts is to help beginning amateur astronomers learn the sky and get more enjoyment out of their telescopes and astronomy in general. If you have any requests for potential targets in the night sky that you would like to see us discuss, just let us know down in the comments section below or on our website blog. Don't miss our free field notes for this episode, basically the script of the show, with all the images and start charts we use for our star hopping activities. You can get them for free at kpobservatory.org/field notes. If this is the first time you're checking out star hopping, and if you found this video useful, please consider subscribing to our channel by clicking the big yellow button, click the thumbs up on the video, and please share this tutorial out to your friends who like looking at stars. Also, as I just mentioned, please feel free to leave any question or comment below, and we'll be sure to respond quickly. Please follow KPO on Facebook, where we post all of our astronomical digital images, and keep everyone informed about upcoming astronomical events. We'd love to hear from you to discuss all this great stuff up in the sky. All the links to these places in cyberspace, including our website, kpobservatory.org, can be found below in the episode notes as well. And finally, if you feel this video provides you value, and if you'd like to see more, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where for a small amount per video, you can support our efforts, and help us make even more great astronomy tutorials, just like this one. So bye for now, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Star Hopping with Kissimmee Park Observatory.